All right, thanks, Steve. So like Steve mentioned, my name's Yurkanin, and I'm a technical account manager at LabKey. So for my presentation, we're going to take a look at planning for success with implementations. Okay, so we work with many organizations while they're working on technical projects. Sometimes LabKey is a central cog to the project. Other times it's in a more ancillary role. We've seen many projects succeed and others fail. And in our experience, when organizations or teams focus on these three areas that we're showing here, adoption, continuity, stability, and security, their project is more likely to succeed and provide value to their organization. And these principles are valid whether you're focusing on LabKey Server SDMS or some other system or software. Now, a little bit more about our client services team. Our client services team consists of team members with diverse backgrounds and strengths. However, each individual helps with all of these essential functions of being an account manager and the service team. An account manager is assigned to each LabKey server client as part of your subscription. The account manager role is broad, and the support that each client organization needs is different. However, if we bucket the different responsibilities, so assisting groups with during project implementations, ongoing support, most likely answering questions and support tickets, and also owning the communication between LabKey and the client. Essentially, your account manager is your gateway to any of the support resources that LabKey has to offer. So user education, that's another key facet of our role, and that is educating users in a variety of different ways, from custom training sessions for an individual or team to venues more like this with a larger or diverse audience. Documentation is also important. It's another critical element in the onboarding and support processes. There is extensive documentation covering the use and configuration of LabKey Server SDMS. And as you can imagine, it takes a significant amount of time and effort to keep this updated for each release, this documentation. Ultimately, our client services team is here to help you succeed. The success of a project is determined by if users adopt, use, and derive value from it. So it's always important to consider the users to be stakeholders in the project. There's nothing worse than that feeling you have when you roll out a big project, you're hearing from the users that it doesn't really meet their needs. Nobody wants that. It's a bad position to be in. So it's necessary to consider the user's needs during all the phases of a project. You have to plan with their needs in mind, and then have a mechanism in place to receive frequent feedback from those users throughout the project. Projects are initiated and funded based on the benefit for an organization. However, when asking users to change their process or to use a new system, it's important to give them the why, right? The why they're doing this, what the benefit is to their organization. It's even more important to communicate the why in terms of the end users. In other words, who will this project change the user experience for? What process will be easier for them? What steps are going to be simplified? These are the kind of questions that we should be considering for and should guide a project. Lastly, we always should be aware of change management curves. So I don't know if you're all aware with this, if you've seen this Kubler-Ross change curve before, but as you can see, it depicts that people's knowledge and enthusiasm dips before rising towards the end of a project implementation process. In change management circles, this dip is somewhat humorously called the Valley of Despair. Even with a technical project, we're still dealing with people. And in the words of the great Ted Lasso, change is hard. With that in mind, it's important to plan for some changes or challenges during a project. The more you plan for it, the easier it is to successfully complete the project. So the gist of this is be prepared for things to get worse before they get better. It's just a part of all software implementations. During the new implementation phase, we ask our account managers to discuss project goals and outcomes with the client team, and then to produce clear, concise written goals. These are reviewed and agreed upon with the client team. There's power in having these things written down. It helps everyone take a look at and agree on the priority of each individual goal. During the grind of daily work for a project, it's easy to become distracted from the project work and to lose sight of these goals. So it really is important to remember that these goals can be used to course correct early and easily if there is any concerning deviation from them. It's important to make sure that these goals are aligned between the different levels of an organization. It's important to understand that the difference between goals and the use of data, or it's important to understand what the difference is between goals and the use of data. For example, if you plan to collect production data from a gene therapy product, the goal is going to be to collect the production data. Different groups might use the data differently. Users will directly enter the data. Managers might look at the data to ensure the run is, like an assay run, for example, is complete. And leaders might pull higher level analytics for process improvement. These are different uses of the data, but the goal of capturing production data is aligned between all of these groups. The last point I want to make, I want to mention about adoption, is the importance of identifying the correct stakeholders for a project. In our experience, LabKey's experience, the teams that are the most successful in implementations have these roles clearly defined. So what are these roles? I'm sure you've all heard of at least a few of them before here, but the executive sponsor, they're the person that provides strategic goals and insight, advocates for the project within the organization's leadership, and secures funding. The project manager, they're the person on the ground who's doing that day-to-day work. They're moving the project forward. They coordinate between the organization's stakeholders and the software vendors' stakeholders to help get the right people involved at the right time when they're needed. And lastly, power users. They're the subject matter experts, or also called sometimes individual contributors on teams who can answer project-related questions and help overcome issues. All right, now we're going to talk about a different topic in pursuit of success. And that is continuity of support and its vital role in maintaining a consistent user experience. So what do I mean by continuity? In this context, continuity refers to an organization's capability to sustain support for software. This capability is crucial for the long-term success of software implementations. When an organization does not establish robust continuity for support of software usage, it can result in an unsatisfactory user experience and disruptions for those users, something that we all aim to avoid. It's essential for organizations to anticipate and plan for such disruptions effectively. This ensures uninterrupted support and optimal user experiences, which are integral for the successful implementation and overall satisfaction with their software. Now, here are some of our recommendations on how to anticipate and plan for said disruptions. Knowledge sharing. Many times, organizations have that one person who knows everything about a specific topic. This can sometimes work, but when they're supporting a software with many organizational use cases, it's not an ideal situation. If that person is not available, operations can be affected. To avoid this, there are two key things we need to focus on, and that is creating clear documentation and getting rid of word of mouth knowledge. So by documentation, I mean creating guides or manuals within your organization that explain how your software is used and how it's set up. Every organization will know best what's needed to be included, what needs to be included, but here are some questions to help you decide what to document. How does your organization use that software? How does your organization do things differently from what's in the software vendor's own guides? What other teams in your organization are involved in supporting that software? And what do they do? When making your software usage guides, it's really important to avoid word of mouth knowledge, or in other words, orally passing down ways of doing things. When information is only shared by talking, it can easily change, mutate over time without anyone really noticing. And over time, this can lead to mistakes. In short, by making sure everyone has access to clear documentation and by avoiding the pitfalls of word of mouth instructions, you can keep your software running smoothly, avoid disruptions, and make everyone's job a little bit easier. Now, with LabKey, when we talk about continuity, remember, you're not on your own in making sure you're ready and prepared. As I touched on a little bit earlier, your account managers, your LabKey account managers, we're here to help. We can set up training sessions for new or current users, focusing on whatever LabKey topic you need to learn about. We'll also give our thoughts to make sure everyone using LabKey knows what they're doing and feels confident. We're also always here to answer any questions you might have about LabKey. When we prefer typically that when you send in that you send in support tickets with your questions, but emails, those can work also. If you or a team member can't send in support tickets and need to be able to do so, just let your account manager know and we can fix that. We'll also always get back to you on your tickets, but some questions or issues might take longer. It depends on how complicated they are. LabKey also has an abundance of informative documentation and tutorials to help you get the most out of using LabKey. We even have some pages with tips on best practices. Some of these pages are in our premium section. So again, if you need access to that and don't already, please ask your account manager to give you access. We're here to make sure you and your team have what you need to use LabKey without any hitches. We're here to answer your questions, help you learn, and most importantly, make sure you have a great experience using LabKey. Your success is what we're all about, and we're here to help with any bumps along the way. So here are a few additional strategies to help bolster continuity. Firstly, implementing training plans is critical. These plans offer a structured approach to onboard new users and ensure they acquire essential knowledge and skills. It's not merely about just introducing them to the system, right? It's about seeing that they understand every aspect that they need to operate efficiently within it. Secondly, the notion of process formalization might sound a little intimidating or overwhelming, but normally it's not. Here, it means standardizing the way that your users interact with their primary contact for a software. When each user has their own unique approach, providing support can become challenging due to the variability in handling tasks. Hence, establishing standard processes is crucial to maintaining a seamless support experience. And lastly, transition planning is also vital. It's about preparing for change, especially when a primary contact for supporting a software leaves their position. Without a backup or successor in place, transitions can be difficult and they can disrupt the flow of normal operations. So it's recommended to have a backup planned or at least have a contingency plan in place. To sum up, developing structured training plans, formalizing processes, and having a clear transition plan are essential steps to guarantee continuity and smooth operation. These measures will mitigate disruptions and ensure that every user feels supported and confident in their role. Now, lastly, let's talk about stability and security. So with any software, if there isn't a focus on stability and security, then there is a greater chance of unexpected outcomes. To prevent this, there are 3 areas to focus on, and that is regular upgrades, applying hotfixes as necessary, and issuing fixes. Staying up to date is the most important way to secure any software and ensure that your users have a satisfactory experience with this. Josh touched on this a little bit earlier, but at LabKey, we have 3 major releases every year. They are generally published in March, July, and November on the 3rd Thursday of the month. New features are generally reserved for major releases, while maintenance releases include primarily bug fixes. Maintenance releases also can contain hotfixes, which may result in changing our normal release cadence a bit if that hotfix is security related. We want to make sure that you all have access to these hotfixes on a timely manner. So if the need is urgent, we'll make sure to change our cadence accordingly. LabKey also offers monthly releases for each month of the year, although those are typically only used by clients interested in using and testing the newest and greatest of LabKey features. When considering your upgrade plans, we recommend that you typically stay on the most recent major release. Okay. And for any software, it's important for the vendor to be available for assistance. LabKey facilitates this support process with the ticketing system we offer in our client support portals. We support our clients whether they're requesting a new feature, have a question, or want to resolve an issue. If you're submitting a question, which is the most common usage of our support portals, your account manager will follow up with answers, or if they don't have an answer right away, they're going to ask questions for additional clarification. Your question should include any relevant context in addition to your question, so to help us understand your question. As to support tickets addressing issues, this is another way to help ensure your server's stability and security as issues are identified. To facilitate the support process, we recommend that you follow this general structure here in your support ticket comment section. So just going through these really quickly, they are fairly self-explanatory, but I want to just go through it. Relevant context. We want to make sure we understand the situation in which the issue arose from. So that way that helps us with reproducing it. There should be a section for describing the issue itself. We want to make sure we understand it. Having issue reproduction steps is very helpful. That helps us reproduce the issue on our end, so that way we can show our developer team what the issue is and they can investigate it more thoroughly. And lastly, attaching any relevant error messages or logs, that's also very helpful. Once we receive a ticket for an issue, our support process is to first confirm we understand the issue. So this is why we ask many questions on tickets to better understand what is happening. And once we have that understanding, we try to reproduce the issue in a similar environment, so that way it can be inspected by our development team, like I mentioned. Sometimes we're unable to reproduce the issues, so we'll circle back to the support ticket and ask additional questions to help us with that successful reproduction. But once we have it, we do pass it on via a change request to our triage team. All right. So during your next project, we hope that you'll consider some of these principles and concepts as you promote adoption, ensure continuity, and maintain the stability of your system. So yeah, any questions?